welcome to the podcast, everybody. I'm your host, sometimes, always, forever, the guest. We're back with another Polarized podcast episode. It's a War of the Worlds. It's a movie that is polarizing, according to Rotten Tomatoes. The audiences and the critics disagree on all of the movies that we talk about here, according to Rotten Tomatoes. And the one today is certified fresh, 75% by the critics, a 42% by the audience. It came out 2005, sci-fi adventure, a Spielberg movie. The worlds are warring each other. First it was stars, now it's worlds. What if it was War of the Stars? Have you seen that movie, War of the Stars? Revenge of the Sith? It's almost like if Yoda was talking about Star Wars, right? Star Wars, War of the Stars. I would like the fellow king of this kingdom of polarization to join me in this discussion as soon as possible, because I can't do this alone. I would never even try. I've never thought about it, but just to let you know, I would never do it. And so here he comes. Here he's coming. He's in the wings.
Oh,
wait a minute.
It's about to be a big old mess in here.
Wait a minute. Give him a second.
Yeah. That's all I need. It's me.
It's you.
It's the great Brandini.
It's the great Brandini. There you go.
Why? Hey,
some say you don't need an introduction, but I like to give you a good one because you deserve it. You deserve it.
Oh, thanks. Wow. You know what? And I appreciate that. Yeah.
You shouldn't take it as an insult. This man needs the greatest introduction ever.
Whoa. Pump me up.
Because you deserve it.
I love it. My ego is going to just be so inflated. I'm going to blast off through the ceiling, just blow a hole in the roof of my apartment.
I've seen it happen. I mean, there's another hole right before you came in too from something else, but I don't know. You just
in my pants. I don't know. No, I'm over it. This is weird. Anyways, hey,
halfway through that, yeah.
We are speaking of halfway through. We're definitely halfway through this summer. We're doing. I'm pumped. We're in the throes of it, man. It's we're
the throes of Augie Doggy, as one Scott Aki would say.
Yeah, the Augie Doggy days of summer are here. First record of August. How are we feeling? How's the summer going?
I'm an Augie Doggy fan. I like moving into the transitional seasons. I like those transitional seasons. Cool. I'm excited to transition into the next thing.
That's weird because we live in an area where that doesn't exist at all.
Exactly. So when it does happen, it's pretty exciting.
It is, yes.
Otherwise, it's nice. It's summer all year round. It's a lot of times, but otherwise, it's just extra hot. That's
extra hot, extra toasty. That's how we have our sandwiches in our bodies during this time of the year.
I feel like it definitely affects me mentally. I feel like I almost
me too, man. I'm losing my mind. yeah, because I'm just tired all the time.
I guess I'll just like fall asleep and wake up in a flop sweat.
Right. Oh God, yeah, that was me last time, man. Oh, God, it's just been a lot of nights where, at least once or twice waking up being like, wow, I am a hot potato.
Big time. Oh yeah. And you're just, I don't know, I feel like a rotisserie chicken. I'm just all rolling over and just it's toasty on the other side. You know how it goes. But
you know how it goes.
Fucking War of the Worlds, man. I want to have not just you, not just I, but it's an extra special day today. Us and them together. Them being the great Blarj is joining us today for yet another space ep.
Our resident space advisor.
Space in this. It's space is the general sci-fi.
Pop goes the weasel. Am I right, bitches?
Pop goes the weasel, bitch.
You said it, man. Pop goes the weasel, bitch. That's how we're feeling.
That's a large thing.
No, that's Brandini, we know, but I'm just stealing it because I love it so much, and I think it's very fitting.
Dirty dog.
It's
very fitting for this episode. I mean, every episode.
The great Blarj at it again.
Yes.
Good to be back.
Good to be
Can't
back.
wait to talk some space.
Good to have you. Yeah, good to have you back.
What was Spielberg? Like, what's some of your Spielberg picks that, like, off the top of your head that you love?
Do a tier list.
He does he does a little bit of sci-fi here and there.
Literally my all-time favorite movie is Close Encounter of the Third Kind.
Same.
It's like literally my favorite movie of all time. So
God, yeah, I don't want to bring that movie up too much because when you do, this movie looks even worse.
I think we actually probably have to go back and check the record, but I'm pretty sure we say that's my favorite movie every time I'm on this podcast.
Yeah,
check the record. Okay, check the record, folks.
Where's the? All right,
I wouldn't be surprised.
To the stenographer.
And yeah, we usually bring up like classic sci-fi movies on this podcast that are kind of hailed across the board as like being fantastic, and then we talk about mainly ones that people disagree on here, which is interesting, but it's hard to have a complete resounding opinion on it when it is kind of caught in the weeds of a lot of different opinions for different reasons. And this one I didn't expect to be polarizing, and we'll get into it as we go along, but I didn't expect this one to be as disagreed upon as it is.
Same.
Especially critics in favor.
I know, isn't that bizarre? Yeah, because
very surprising.
Yeah, absolutely. Because these big budget action movies is always the case where the audience loves it because it's fun, you know?
Yeah, like a lot of effects and spectacle and summer blockbuster, and go see it in the movies. And I remember doing that, and I don't know, there was a lot of reactions to everything, and it was interesting. Even at the beginning, a lot of humor in ways that like the audience was reacting a lot to as well, of just kind of the back and forth with this dysfunctional sort of family and how they're interacting with each other. But yeah, that surprised me. Close Encounters is hardcore classic. We will not be talking about. That's one we won't be talking about because it's a classic. Everyone loves it. But I mean, even a Minority Report, I believe, came out before this, and that's kind of where the relationship he's at in his career. But you know, he's done like E.T. in the past as well. And he's of course, Close Encounters, and we'll eventually do Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Sorry, those are interdimensional beings. Those are not aliens.
Yes.
Much as these are not necessary, they are coming from above, but they're come as above, so below. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. On God.
I like, don't you?
Which one? I can't tell the difference between Blarj and Brandini. I think that's
Pop goes the weasel, bitch.
Pop goes the weasel, bitch. I like that subversion, you know, and it's done in a way that's it's done in a Spielbergian way. A lot of stuff in this movie. Obviously, it all comes out in ways that set it apart from like other like alien invasion movies. You know, it's cool to see his take on it, and especially when it's coming straight from a text. And you guys saw this movie like when it came out.
Oh yeah. This is a huge deal.
Yeah,
good lord,
this was a big deal. I remember.
Yeah, it's such a huge deal for us in our time, came out in that time of our lives where, you know, going to the movies was the big thing. We're not 21 yet. We're not going to the bars or anything like that.
What I actually think is funny, you guys decided
movies.
You guys decided to do this one now because it's very topical considering all these like congressional hearings that are going on. But it's like it's the main one that happened
totally by accident.
No,
we knew.
I was like, no way. You guys got a great producer over there at your podcast. You guys are, you know, you run a tight ship over there. So I know you guys.
I'll tell them you said that.
Thank you. Please pass the message along.
I'm not too familiar with what the actual hearing, like, I don't know, was specifically about. I just know generally what it was talked about.
What's really funny is it's everything that's already been, I don't know. It seemed kind of, to me, underwhelming just because everything has already been more or less talked about. This was just like a place that's now on the record where it's like, it's
right.
now Congress is taking this seriously, basically, and it's going to go through the ebbs and flow in Congress, and there'll be like legislation and stuff that'll go in place now that'll affect like military stuff or whatever, right? Like mainly
That
about
I guess
like
specifically I don't really understand is like what is the like desired outcome from these hearings.
so
I get what you mean that there needs to be, because that's, I'm familiar with that process in a couple other sectors of like public sectors and whatnot, of like
sure.
you need to establish like terms and validate research and validate, like you need to present the facts, and then so once we have the facts and we can communicate effectively on what the facts like what this means here, or what does, you know, X equals Y, whatever, and then that way you can then formulate plans to either like fix that, aid that, do whatever. So yeah, I'm curious what the desired like goal is here. Just for all of us to say aliens exist or what?
Kinda. That's kind of the TLDR of it all, and it's really like, just to give a little more context, so we, you know, to not take too much time, we can get back into the actual movie. But like, it's really they are just like, it's a congressional committee that's basically being established, and the desired outcomes from this committee are going to be like certain legislations or things that are written into rules that are basically like allowing witnesses. So like, especially a lot of the people that are I don't really know what to call it, like testifying. It's not really testifying because it's just like a hearing. It's like a committee. But like the people that were testifying,
witnesses, that's fine.
Are a lot of like Air Force or like Navy pilots, and a lot of that there's a lot of bias that comes with like wanting to actually report something that you do see. It can come with like, you know, credibility issues with your job, like all of this.
Yeah, you
stuff.
seem like a crazy person to say that aliens
there's
exist.
all this stigma to it. So one of the desired outcomes would be like, oh, now there's like rules and regulations where you have to report this, and there's stuff that's like like stuff that you have to fill out now, and this is
have a record of it.
Exactly, and it's taken more seriously, and it's documented more clearly.
And
that way it's just like more like, okay, these people can now feel more comfortable with seeing these things, reporting them, and like we can get to the bottom of like any more information. So it's like that's kind of the TLDR of it all. I think there's a lot more to it. There's like obviously more things, but that's like a big main thing of that they want to.
Is there anything about burying tripods underground?
Yeah, what's
I'm like,
what's the procedure there? And
I'm worried about that again.
TBD.
They need to address that. I hope they address that.
So, you know, and is that?
Oh, sorry.
What if the aliens are here? That's kind of what happened in fucking the other movie we talked about tomorrow, where I feel like the aliens are already here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the polar ice caps and shit, right?
We talked about that collectively together, right? That was a movie for us a long time ago, man. Yeah.
With with good old J.K. Sims.
The aliens were inside the house all along.
Yeah, absolutely. They were in the polar ice caps, right?
Correct.
It's a quick way to, you know,
they melt and then the aliens come out, right?
It's a quick way to just have aliens, you know, like not having to go through a lot of fluff. You can just be like, look, you know, we got that classic case of infested
already here
before we even got here.
Yeah, you know? Already here. Classic case of already here. Aliens. Yeah, just
I mean, really, Marvel, like all the Kree and everything. It's just like, oh, they're among us.
They're among us. They're shapeshifters.
Yes.
They are here.
Body snatchers, if you will.
Yeah, but that
that
posits the fucking seismic scientists or whatever don't know what they're doing. Why didn't they pick that shit up?
Yeah.
Kind of takes the piss out of them.
Yeah. But so one of the questions I was going to ask, and it relates to the very beginning of War of the Worlds. And it's basically about like who, well, I guess it's not, maybe it is jumping a little bit ahead of the gun.
Go for it.
It's when Tom Cruise is seeing the lightning strike into the ground. Right.
Being shown it. Are you talking about that scene
he's
where
standing in front of it? Like he went.
Oh, he's standing in front of it. Just had that long walk and talking situation all the way up until there.
Yeah, him and his like
very New Yorkers, but he just does not have an accent and doesn't.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you guys about that scene is, at what point are you guys getting the fuck out of there?
Oh, almost immediate. Well, especially when it okay, the very specific point for me would be when the ground starts to break.
Okay, good. Because there's a lot of, I want you to think about that, because before Tom Cruise actually starts running.
Yeah.
There's a lot of time that is like elapsing. The thing comes out of the ground like pretty slowly, relatively speaking.
Oh yeah, because it happens in phases, right? Like first, everybody walks up to the lightning bolt like spot, then it starts to break, and then that's a circle. Then that circle gets bigger and breaks, like snaps through a building, and then even at that point, he's just kind of backed up, but just can't take his eyes off the fact of what's going on, and just is so enamored by this whole thing going on.
That shit, dude. I wouldn't even go near like, oh, the lightning striking like 27 times or whatever. The Robbie tells him,
let's run
like, in the same place. Like we counted. And he's like, okay, you so stay here. And he's like so mad about him taking the car, and he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna go check it out and leave my kids alone. Whatever.
Yeah. Wait, so is that your answer, James? Is you're not even gonna go check it out?
I'm a baby.
I'm kind of in that same. Already what I've seen is weird, and I don't feel like I need to stick around. I'm like already probably going to decide.
It is, yeah, you're right. That's a good point too, because okay, so let's talk about this part of the movie, because I like this part of the movie.
Me too.
I don't mind this part of the movie at all.
Build up
because it cranks too.
Exactly.
In these movies, I like it, like the disaster stuff. I'm dreading as like the characters in the movie are dreading when they find out what's happening, but like the establishing the characters and getting like the glimpses of like something's off and all that build up is so nice. And the cool thing is that's what all Close Encounters is essentially is just like all of those things, which is why it's so great. And like nothing like, besides
little subtle nuances, and then all of a sudden the Band-Aid's like ripped off and you're like, oh shit, this is real.
Yeah, or Arrival is another good example of that.
Arrival though kind of flips it on its head to a degree, but just does it so much like with grace and effectiveness, because with Arrival they come down immediately.
That's true.
But all of the tension is because to your guys' points too, like a part of what's built into the discovery of this like cause of disaster is all the different approaches, because it just makes your mind reel and like, how would I tackle this? How would I, pack up, get ready, get out of there, prepare for this, all of that stuff, which is just a really, fun and enjoyable like thought experiment to be presented with, which I really enjoy as well. And yeah, it's fun that you just, James, you put Close Encounters that way, because totally that is what that movie is, and it's great for it. Because it's not even necessarily about what the aliens are, what they look like, or what they want. It's just how do we as human beings handle this situation if presented with it, and that's honestly more interesting than what the aliens are like. Obviously, you could make the argument for both, but you get what I mean. Is like you can make the argument that our handling of it is far more interesting than whatever the aliens are bringing or what have you. So
wait,
this is.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to ask you. Well, I wanted you to clarify something, James, because you said you were talking about the buildup. Like that's one part that you enjoyed. So was it like a pretty gradual? Do you think it like was very subtle, and then it actually kind of was a rip the Band-Aid off moment?
It's the Spielberg stuff where it's like it reminds me of Jurassic Park with like there's some Jurassic Park in this movie in a couple ways, but even when you see like the drops and stuff like on the in Jurassic Park when the dinosaur was coming, I feel like it's things like that. I'm trying to think exactly what it was, where even as he was going and as the storm was one thing, and even representing the storm and the wind was like the clothes on the laundry line and everything was establishing the wind. And that I like that, and even like just water spraying out of fire hydrants and things like that were practical effects that are very Spielberg kind of stuff too. That was like incorporating that with some practical effects, with some special or CG effects, which there's definitely a lot of in this too. But what was specifically your question again? I guess just like all those like little
it's unnerving too that
little things
everybody's like outside looking at something and being so kind of unsettled collectively, which really just is such great mood, mood setting.
That's where it gets into very obviously this is inspired by the fallout from 9/11 and everything that happened in New York with everyone taking that in and witnessing that as it was happening, like on the ground, and the chaos that ensued. It just really spoke to Spielberg dealing with that. and all the dust and shit and everything. I think
yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that, about the people dust, the vapored people dust being on them, being kind of like the dust of concrete and buildings from 9/11.
Everyone was covered in dust after 9/11. You see people that and running away and all that stuff. But I thought the curiosity of the people in the crowd work within this movie was really well done, and that's something that's difficult to do. And a lot of people in these crowd shots.
It just God, the movie just gets right into what the aliens look like, and here they are, and they're mean, and they're out to get everybody.
Very clear, yeah.
Very clear. Don't know if I love that, but I'm curious how you guys feel about the design of the tripod. Do you guys like it, or have any strong feelings about it at all?
The machine,
the way that the tripod looks like. We could talk about the aliens too once we get there as well. The look of them, but what did you think of the?
To me, they're tied together because I think
similarly,
you kind of almost have to bring them up together because I think the overall design of the ship or the tripod itself was accurate in a way to this story, and him very clearly wanting it to be a tripod of some kind. I thought it was imposing. I thought it was scary how it was used and the sounds that it made, and
the sound, for sure,
and like its old tendrils and tentacles and stuff. I think it's kind of funny how like the actual aliens are also tripods. I think that's kind of funny because it's like I don't know. I'm just trying to think of us like bipedal creatures.
It's like making a mech suit.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah, it'd be like making a mech suit. Yeah, so
you're like
to each their own. But I just thought it was funny. They're just like no,
obviously this is the most. This is the best structure in existence. So why not just make it larger and made out of not metal or whatever. I don't really love the tendrils, like that kind of fluidity, the way that the whatever type of tendril that is the laser beam thing. I don't know if I really love that, because I'm trying to articulate it, where I'm just thinking about like in Independence Day or in like a James Cameron type of way, where I don't know if because it's so CG. I kind of wish that it was like a part of the machine that would be like a laser would come down on, hanging from it and shooting out. And it's not so much like these CG kind of flowy arms kinda or whatever.
Clunky. It was kind of clunky. That was going to be my critique of the tripod, is it seemed like there was a lot of gadgets. Like it has, like you mentioned, there's like laser tentacles. There's actual like the 3 legs. And then there's like in the other scenes where they're like later in the movie, they're like going through and actually picking people up. There's like, dozens and dozens of them. And those seem just like little mini arms. So it's like this whole.
Are they two different types of things too? Because I don't remember seeing the cages, which children could easily fall out of. It's not like they're like tight metal, like latticing that's really holding them in there. I mean, if you just kind of like.
You don't think
it's not ideal to just drop a child from I don't know, a fucking 10, 15 story building essentially.
It was surprising it was like little baskets, rather than.
You don't think they have like alien intercoms in those cages that are like, "Welcome to the alien tripod Beta 6G. Please keep a hold of your children as they may slip through the."
It would behoove them to inside the vehicle at all times, and be careful.
Someone will be with you to mutilate you shortly.
When we were about to pick someone, we'll tilt it over just a little bit so there's no escape for any of you.
And I really hope Tom Cruise isn't in any of these, because that guy is a nuisance.
Oh, we're going.
Yeah, so I don't know, guys, but yeah, I don't really like, and also too the snake camera situation. Didn't love that either, because it's so CG and has like this fluidity to it. I'm like, it just kind of drove me a little nuts. Like, why it couldn't. I understand that it would be more work, obviously, so it's like kind of a just a cost effective measure or whatever, or just maybe obviously because. It's well documented that Steven Spielberg had just such a horrible time with the shark animatronic and all that. So like, given an opportunity to have the, a similar kind of vibe where it's like hiding from this thing that's chasing you in a, that type of way. BCG was probably a welcomed, like ability, welcome technology to be able to leverage instead of making them like a big mechanical, almost like tentacle thing. But all of that stuff doesn't really work for me. I wish it was more. And the aliens too, I wish they were just scarier and bigger and were more like brutalist, like almost like a Harkonnen looking aesthetic to their ships instead of having this kind of like I don't know, this
just like big
rounded,
head and like little chicken legs,
flowy octopus kind of,
everything looks like really washed out in the effects of this movie and not like almost like out of focus, and it's not terrible, but as far as conceptually and putting it all together and the reveal of the aliens doesn't do a lot for me, let alone that whole kind of scene with Tim Robbins in the basement. Is obviously the movie slows down and it takes its time a bit there, but it also kind of, I think, doesn't work super well for me at that point. It picks up again a little bit, but the amount of time that they spend in that basement had me questioning it a bit, and I haven't read the book, so I don't know.
Well, plus you're not you can't tell me that thing doesn't have like heat vision, like it can see thermal, like,
or that it would even give a shit about 3 people in a fucking basement.
Yeah.
Like, why is it?
And they send 4 aliens in there to check it out too.
A bunch of aliens out of the ship to check out,
and then it comes back a second time too. And then I guess this is just where they're really spreading their bloody seed. But this is the other part that reminded me of Jurassic Park as well, where it's essentially the same thing as the scene in the kitchen with the raptors, where the movie slows down. They're all kind of trying to recoup, and then like these kind of stealthy things kind of come in, and they gotta hide in the kitchen, and it was just like, oh, this is like the same beat as that, except like a
worse.
I agree. There's some sort of disconnect with it, and then the whole back and forth with Tim Robbins was just kind of like, a man slowly losing his mind, but I feel like he needed a little something more attached to his character that wasn't doing it for me. It seemed like there's a little more attribution to he was an EMT and was losing his mind and kind of almost seemed like Doomsday prepper a bit or something, but I don't know.
No, that's a totally fair thing to say, because like, especially if he is a first responder, like, why is he losing his mind so quickly? Because I mean, theoretically, like, this whole situation, like, we're probably at like day 4 or 5 of this, right?
Oh man, the timeline in this movie seems very hard for me.
It's tough.
I've seen this movie a bunch, and I'm still a little iffy on the timeline.
They spend one night at the
mom's house,
the mom's house, and then they spend is it the next night at Tim Robbins? Is our whole day, and then they
that's where I'm like,
he sleeps on the car ride, I guess, as well, and
that's that whole thing happens, right? Because from the mom's house, they go on that road trip to the Hudson River ferry, and then that goes from day to night. Because you're right, the son who we got to talk about how much he sucks. Now he's like just such a drag every single time he's ever on screen. And just like go get yourself killed, please get out of this movie.
No, let's talk about it, because like that's the way this scene kind of slows down. And a lot of the stuff that has to do with him kind of just is confusing. And it's interesting to see everybody else in the movie react to how I'm reacting to him too, where he's like begging the military to like, take me with you, I want to fight, and they're all looking at him like, what the fuck is your problem, man? Get out of the way, you're gonna get run over. And Tom Cruise is just like, what's your problem? And Dakota Fanning's like, why are you leaving me? You need to take care of me. He's like, fuck you guys. And then he when he's running over that hill, I like started laughing this time seeing. I've seen this movie a fair amount of times, and I was just like laughing at this point, because he's like, he asks him, he's like, why are you doing this?
Like, he's got no weapon. He's got no.
you're just gonna run straight in there.
There's a lot of people running too. What is the deal with that? See, there's a lot of people running towards the fire and all the fighting, and then there's a lot of people running away. There's just a lot of chaos, but I don't know why there's so many people like, yeah, it's fight. And there's all this like shooting and fighting, and there's all these people walking towards it, and I'm like, why are we all headed this direction?
It looks like it's like supposed to be some like rural area where maybe it's just like a community of like farmers, but then there's like hundreds of people that are like running away. They're all like gathered at this one spot. It's like, did the aliens land like right in the center of town, and that was just over that hill or something?
That's where they set up shop. Yeah, there's a chaos to this movie that is effective, and I think Spielberg does well, where that buildup is well done, and then when it actually, the curiosity about what's in the ground, and then when it does take effect, that reaction I think is something that everyone running and all of that is good, and him looking in the mirror at the dust and is great. And sets it apart from some other movies. But we were talking about Robbie for a second. His motivation. Just to close it on him. I mean, his motivation and just to fight and everything just kind of is confusing and weird. And then him coming back at the end is supposed to feel good. Then you're just kind of like, why? I don't know.
Can I just posit this too? Is like, in my mind, the movie is trying to do this. Is that the son stereotypically is the result of Tom Cruise, the father, right? And so in Tom Cruise confronting his son about what it means to be a good family member and to be part of a family, he is confronting him as they're like embracing on the hill or whatever, about like, you can't go just do what you want because you have people that you have to take care of, which is self-reflective of him, because that is, I would argue, poorly been set up with him, or maybe not poorly, but it's just so ham-fisted about how bad of a father he is. Because you don't necessarily know like why. It's just such a general like, because he's a guy. Like I don't know. You know why what your problem is? Bad father is. I got a few women
who'd like to tell you.
Because you're a drinker? No, it doesn't seem like it. Because you're kind of a sexaholic. I don't know. We don't see that. It's not like he's trying to fucks a bunch in this movie. And like, so what is he a bad father?
Yeah, it's just kind of like they don't like him, and he's kind of just.
It's a presence thing, I think, is what Robbie actually says. He's like, at that scene, I think he actually specifically says, he's like, you want to basically take us to mom so that you can pawn us off on her, and then you can only worry about yourself, which is exactly how you want it. That's like, to me, what Robbie, that's why he was like a bad dad. That was the whole gripe between them two. But they don't, you're right, they don't like, there was no pre-work on that at all. It was just like, hey, by the way, they're divorced. He's supposed to be a bad dad.
To Eowyn? How could you?
I mean,
Theoden is pissed.
I do know what you mean, though, where it isn't even with the Tim Robbins thing, there's no specific attribute, and that's kind of, and maybe there doesn't need to be, maybe that's makes it too stereotypical of a generic sort of character trait or something, but it's like, it doesn't seem like there's a distraction besides just being like lazy and not attentive and maybe absent and not fully catering to their needs, having their bedroom still the same and stuff like that, and the engine in the kitchen and a pinball machine in the closet. When you got a pinball machine in the closet, I mean,
come on,
he's
Robbie.
living his best life.
Come on,
all the condiments you need.
So I prefaced this yesterday to you guys so you can think about it. So speaking of his apartment and the relationship and all that is, he really has a hard time with hummus in this. And I wanted to ask you guys on mic is, what is the hummus of today? If this movie were to have been made today, instead of hummus, what would it be?
I think you still have to clarify this question more a little bit for me, because I've been thinking about it.
Okay, so this. I'll just say this.
Is told that she needs to order food for the family.
And I know you
specifically orders hummus, Or was it just because it's just that hummus is all that was left over? There was probably stuff.
No. So the problem that Tom Cruise has with it is he even says that it's not even to him. It's not food. real food.
Okay, gotcha.
So he looks at it as like it's kind of the way that somebody who doesn't eat health food would react to something, being like, you're eating grass, like, you know, kind of that energy about it. Like, I don't understand why you would eat a paste made of garbanzo beans when you should have ordered burgers and fries. Like, what are you doing eating this weirdo food? You know, hummus, a weirdo food.
I know,
like,
because even at the time, was hummus this at that, like in reference to your question, like is hummus even that at this time?
Especially in New York City?
Is it saying in New York City, like he hasn't been around hummus before? Like
there's no Mediterranean places.
Any Israelis, any Lebanese, like any Middle Eastern people, like in his entire existence that have been.
I know what you mean though, where like this is a trope you're talking about in movies where somebody is like, and it happened with sushi and you know, as well, like, oh, raw fish, ooh no, and people reacting like in movies in the 80s and shit like that. So I'm just not sure if that trope of a joke works as well now. Besides highlighting a fault in that person that's eating it or something, or like that, like kind of how you said, like it's some sort of hipster weird, you know, health thing that they're like like another character that's not used to like a Impossible Burger, like, oh, I want real meat, like that sort of character distinction of.
That's what I was gonna say.
Highlighting that in a tropey sort of way, like, what is this shit? Give me real meat, you know, that sort of thing.
100%, No, the Impossible Meat would be good. It's just the I would just pause. I mean, I don't mean to yuck your yum here, but like Impossible Meat can be a burger, right? Like, if anything, you could trick somebody into eating an Impossible Burger from face value because it looks the same.
And then you have that Chris Farley
clearly
scene from
like
SNL where it's like, oh, that'd be great, especially with like, oh, this is good. Like, excuse me, sir, did you know that you are actually eating Impossible Burger? And what?
You son of a
bitch.
Actually, then so it'd probably have to be like a black bean patty or something. Then it was like, you know, like something like that, you know. Where it's like very obvious that it's not
tempeh. It's tempeh.
Yeah,
you know?
there you go. What is this? It's a tempeh cheeseburger.
Carnitas.
Oh, jackfruit! Wow,
Hey, it's all good. All good to me. I just
thanks for entertaining me.
Yeah, that shit doesn't hold up, and it's like, you know, he's the guy who did the chilled monkey brain scene, you know. So it's like he's this is not his first rodeo of doing.
Oh, are we talking BG3?
IJ2 IGTOD. But you know, that was something that he used in that movie to show, you know, just it's very
cultural insensitivity. Yeah,
exactly.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly the reason why it's not being used. you know, is how that stuff like that doesn't hold up anymore either.
Yeah, absolutely. It is funny to think about the point you made, James, of like, is hummus even weird at that point?
I know,
you know, right? Because now from where we're sitting in this, at you know, in 2023, it just seemed it stood out so much to me where somebody is like really can't understand hummus. Like, it's such a foreign concept to him of like, what?
Yeah, and it could be maybe it could be a thing where it's like they're talking about how weird he is, you know? Rather than how weird hummus is, it could be more like how weird he is and how ignorant he is to the world around him, and how it makes sense why nobody wants to be with him. But he's just loves his car. He fucking loves his car. It's a great car. He's got his engine. Maybe he's just spent all of his time in that car. And playing pinball and wanting to just live life how he wants to live it. His frustration as Tom Cruise and being like kind of failing is kind of funny, where Tom Cruise is such a winner, and he's just kind of like fucking up, you know. And the whole when it like culminates in that peanut butter sandwich thing, and he just throws it out the window, and it just that reflection of the peanut butter sandwich with his like kind of tearful face was like worked really well. I don't know that. Some of that, and I remember in the theaters too, like people just kind of chuckling at that. And there's just something that is probably speaking from experience as Steven Spielberg, as probably it seems like a dad, and also his issues with his own father as well, probably coming through a bit there. You know, very like themes that a lot of themes that have been in his movies, like in the familial sense and everything. But you know, there's some highlights of this movie. I mean, like there's the train thing that where the fucking train on fire going by, that was like quite the effect. They're them rolling in with the car and everyone taking over the car and the gun and
crazy.
Well, even before that, the plane crash, like
the plane crash.
Let's talk the plane crash.
That plane crash was pretty intense. It was still very trippy to me again from the whole time perspective because like so that was like right after the peanut butter. You know that you just talked
that plane
about
should have been down already.
I mean, I have a lot of issues with it's like from when they could hear.
Yeah, let's do it.
From when they could hear the plane falling and all of those symptoms of a plane crashing are going on outside. It still just seemed like I'm like this seems like the longest crash ever, right? Like,
fair.
I'm just listening to plane sounds like go. I'm like, how long and how, like from how I feel like
I thought about that this time too.
It would be so quick.
Further away, like it should have been a louder sound further away coming into like directly overhead.
Right.
It was just like all of a sudden very loud and like shaking. Like, is this plane just hovering over?
Right. It wouldn't be shaking the building. It would be like, boom, building hit.
Right. So that whole part, I'm just like, I don't know.
It almost sounded like a
course. Yeah.
Just a big slide whistle.
Yeah. And then they appeared to spend the night because it was nighttime. They go down to the basement.
And then they hide in the where all the pipes and shit.
Wait, what's that?
Oh yeah, they were sleeping, and then that happens, and then you got to go where all the pipes are for the rest of the night. Yeah.
And then just sleep though. To Mike's point, is
because then they go back to sleep.
They just got to back to sleep in there, I guess.
And he wakes up and he goes outside and he's like, "Oh, everything's fucked."
Yeah.
All right, good night. So don't forget to set your alarm.
Yeah. It's okay.
But yeah, I mean, if the plane should have been like no power to anything, the plane should have been donezo, like right with everything else, unless it was just like gliding around for a bit or something. But
it that scene when they're leaving is like, and obviously
amazing.
Besides the being able to like just drive away and be like, oh, there's a perfect path for my car to like leave this area, which is great. Actually, fun side story.
The only working car on the planet because they fixed the solenoids or whatever the fuck.
Yeah,
Mr. Manny, the mechanic.
Yeah,
the most New York guy in the movie.
Yeah, but a fun side note is I got a Universal was touring that set.
Yeah,
they still do.
Me and James have done that together.
Oh, they do it. Okay,
they still do. To my knowledge, last time I was there, it's still going.
Yeah,
because it's an amazing set, and I see why they're like. We fucking ripped apart an actual 747, like not in use and service anymore.
It was getting decommissioned.
Yeah, and then brought it over and tore it apart. And you drive through it, and best ride there, the tram ride. You do the tour of the set, like the behind the scenes and everything. And
awesome.
You drive through it, and it shows the scene as you're driving through.
Yeah, it's weirdly smaller than. But that's just like movie magic shit.
It is,
you know what I mean? But like,
because you have the zoomed out perspective, but like when you actually
also the CG fill in so much of the background of like to add perspective of like the neighborhood and all that stuff. But yeah, still fucking so cool. I think I read it was like it was cheaper to do it that way than to have built an airplane like replica or whatever.
Right. Yeah, just to have one.
So it was a money saving thing to just have it decommissioned on the lot instead of wherever planes go to get decommissioned.
Yeah, and I'm sure it'd be more expensive to move it as well, rather than just make it a part of the
absolutely.
Tour.
Exactly.
Yeah, just leave. Yeah, just leave. Cool.
All right, done. That's man. I love that.
Yeah, really,
so fun.
Fucking turn lemons into lemonade in every which way.
I feel like that's like a lot of my gripe with this movie. I think is really it's like everything is really shot well, and like a lot of it is just like filler scenes to get to the Spielberg bread and butter, where it's like really pretty visual shots, really set up well, right? Like it gets you get a lot of those like just pretty frequent in the film. So, and that's why I think I really like it, is because it's like his bread and butter, and he visually makes things look so good. And it really brings you there, which is cool. But then if you actually start paying attention to the movie, is when there's like a little bit of a
it really
there's
starts
some
to fall
holes,
apart.
and we get the problems with Ravi, and
he builds the tension so well, and the disaster thing is not something that appeals to me anymore. The Roland Emmerich stuff, I don't know, it's not really my thing, and this is a version that that puts it together in an entertaining overall sort of way. And I think for me it would be some of those character moments don't fully hit and don't fully flesh themselves out enough. And some of the designs can be a little wonky and stuff, but there's some cool camera work that shot when they're driving down the freeway, cool. Where it's going in like 360 around the van the whole time as they're driving, and like in the car, out of the car and stuff. And
very cool.
There's a lot of the dialogue working within all that, and then it zooms back out. And even just watching all the extras point at the car, like, hey, how'd they get a car and all? It's like it's all that stuff is just tuned in really, really well.
Or even that intro, we didn't talk about it much, but the very, very beginning of the movie, just being on the yard, right? Like in the yard, and him, taking the shipping containers off. And that's really to see that at scale, and from that perspective, it was really cool to see someone up there like in that window operating the big crane.
It worked as a way to like establish the city in like a big shot, but also be like, hey, we're gonna go in here and this is where he's at, and doing that job seems like a cool character trait. And his boss being like, you're the best, you gotta stay there. He's like, I'm busy. And it's like, it seems like he's making time for his kids. That's good. But he's got the New York cap, and then Robbie's got the Boston cap.
It's such a little shithead.
Some humor right there. And then Robbie like calls him out, and then like right before he throws it back, he's like, that's why you're such a little asshole when you come over here or something. Then he just breaks the window. Like, I don't know, there's some the tension there's. And Dakota Fanning, we haven't really talked about her and how great she is as a child actress. Like,
you know what, let's change that, because she's probably my favorite thing in this movie. She does absolutely amazing. Every scene with her is pretty much the best.
She handles it so. And then like when she's like, you're not going to get through to him that way, that kind of stuff is
wise beyond her use.
Delivers those lines really well, even when she's like, I have to go to the bathroom. Like there was a pause there, and she took it, and like she didn't brush anything, and very thoughtful actor. Like I was impressed again watching it this time.
Yeah, I agree. I liked it. Yeah,
I mean, also too, I noticed this time around how much her anxiety, her screaming adds to the tension. Well, it doesn't. It continues to just really keep momentum going, and like fear and the anxiety that it's trying to elicit, like it keeps it
talking there. Specifically that freeway scene, or throughout the
just
movie?
In general. I mean, God, she really, like, her being afraid is, happens all throughout the movie, and I think it adds and doesn't, because I read some of the reviews, and a lot of people find her annoying, but I don't know, I can see that being the case. But I think that is to her credit that she is, she is a frustrating character, but it's a kid in this situation. It's going to be hell. It's going to be very frustrating, because every which way, especially at her age, you would need to, like, they're always wanting things to get explained to them. They're always questioning, why are we doing things? All of that stuff. And it's super frustrating. But again, I think that it is weird to have a gripe about, like, God, she's so fucking annoying. It's like, I mean,
she hits that stride.
With, like, an 11-year-old
when you got Robbie right there.
She hits that stride pretty early on in the movie too, because in that freeway scene, I think they transition it pretty well into going from the shock and awe of seeing what Tom saw, right, and then going in the car and being like, Dakota's freaking the fuck out because she definitely saw some shit, right? And like the music's intense. They're going somewhat fast on the freeway, right? And Robbie's like calmly asking, but then there's that Dakota in the back where she's like, "Take me to mom," like, freaking the fuck out. So I agree. I
pretty good.
establishing that like dichotomy.
She just really kind of fizzles out after this, right? Or is there another
in
movie
her
that
career?
kind of like ends her for a little bit? Ends her run.
This is definitely the big one in my mind as far as like some other big stuff. It's been a lot of her sister, I feel like, lately, but I Am Sam was 2001. War of the Worlds 2005. Man on Fire was 2004.
That's what I was gonna say.
That was right before this, and then Secret Life.
That's a big one for her.
Secret Life of Bees 2008.
Never saw that. That's the Jerry Seinfeld one, right?
No, that's the
oh,
that's the sequel. I'm actually not sure either. But it's not the B movie.
Damn.
This is based on a novel. In 1964, a teenage girl in search of the truth about her mother runs away to a small town in South Carolina and finds a family of independent women who can connect her to her past. Is the IMDb description. Dakota Fanning, Jennifer Hudson, Queen Latifah. And
Queen Bee.
What are some other things? Twilight Saga, Eclipse, and New Moon.
Yes, that
she was the voice of Coraline. Which is a fantastic movie, 2009. There's movies here, but I think the Please Stand By movie, I know that one's big. Ocean's 8, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. She was at the ranch, if you remember her for a moment there.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Like in the room, like preceding seeing Bruce Dern or whatever.
Yeah. She's like the
scary, weird scene.
Person.
That's, I mean, still doing it, bringing people's careers back for moments, for bright moments. And then, I'd like to, at least before we move on to reviews and everything, just mention like those bookends with Morgan Freeman, because I feel like this was at a time too where it was before that was like almost a joke. Anytime you hear it now, it's like a parody, because no one actually, like, he doesn't do that anymore. He's getting old, of course. If you were to do it now, it's almost like as a joke, because it was just done so much with like March of the Penguins. I'm not sure what year that, but this too, I think, was when that was still a thing that was like, oh, we can transition into voiceovers and make it very epic off the bat, which was interesting. Watching the trailer was a different narrator doing the exact same thing to footage that was not even in the movie. So that was just a very early teaser in my mind, where they didn't have everything fleshed out. But even, as far as not everything fleshed out goes, are you guys satisfied with the bookends of this movie, with how they not only introduce it, but how they wrap it up with
I am not. Wildly unsatisfied. I think it's very stupid.
I thought I had misremembered how quickly wrap it up, and I was like, oh no, it's fucking quick.
And it's so weird too, the way it's plotted, that Tom Cruise blowing up one of them seems to like weirdly coincide with all of them not working again. Because it's just the way that it's like one happens after the other so quickly, but they really have nothing to do with each other. It's just these aliens are morons by and large. Like, because it's not like they were in a rush to invade us. They apparently set up stuff, before humans were even really humans, and then decided on this day, and they couldn't plan out that. It's so
they don't
stupid.
have a microscope.
I'm sorry. It's so dumb.
I
hate the end of this movie.
It's 100% contradictory, because in the prologue, he says, like, specifically states, it's like, while we were pursuing mundane, like, human whatever the fuck, right? They've been watching and studying, right? And it's how much studying have they been doing? If
they were not ready for the test.
They haven't seen like a hospital. They haven't seen all the humans dying of like, disease and all that stuff.
Yeah, all of it. Like it's just so funny how quickly you think about it just in a nanosecond. You're like, oh, this is very stupid, and they didn't come up with a solve for this.
Almost like Happening level, like in a Shyamalan sort of way, and like sort of level twist that just doesn't really, yeah. And I feel like they didn't want to spend too much time explaining it, because then it would have, fallen apart even more, or just not really been as satisfying as you wanted it. And having those bookends just seemed like a cheat. And I guess the timing of it all is like, it took what, 3 to 5 days for all the water and oxygen and all the shit to affect them enough to just be like, oh wait, this isn't gonna work. But I guess we'll never know, because we just get the Morgan Freeman from the moment they started drinking our water and breathing our air.
Yeah,
they were done.
I'm so curious though, because it's like, it's weird to me that, I don't know, like I feel like, as a viewer of the movie, and I'm trying to think more along the audience side of where like they're, a little bit disagreeing of and
this must be a big part of it, is this ending.
Yeah, right. It has to be, right? Because I feel like if humans don't like, generally, just being a human being, we don't like the idea of like being taken over and exterminated, right? So if you're gonna put us through that stress emotionally, then I feel like when you wrap it all up that way, where it was just like,
it's so cheated. Unsatisfying. You're like, cheated. We didn't.
And it's like, we could have done different. Like, I feel like, why isn't the government or doing, like, why can't we say, oh, let's all shelter in place or do something, because, we can be smarter about, instead of like going and trying to fight. Like every scene that the government was involved in, the military was involved, it was like them fighting, the aliens, which I'm like, it's a normal response, I guess. But once you find out all the technology and you can't penetrate, I feel like there's alternate methods that you would go about.
And it happens in such a short amount of time that just as far as of anything of consequence within that time on either side, nothing really happens. There's nothing we could have done differently that would have changed the outcome. And same goes for them, besides just studying up a little bit more. And it's just funny to think like, okay, let's get our attack going. Yeah, this is going great. Okay, wait, and then you're just like dying. It's just like kind of funny. And then just like, because thinking of just silly. Like launching a big attack and then just like falling over and dying like in the middle of everything is almost like humorous and weird.
Yeah. Well, because the whole time I'm like, I remember it's like, it was so hard for us to fight them that I'm like, what are these scenes of us fighting them accomplishing? Like, what is stopping, or how, if we're setting up a line of tanks, right, where Robbie is doing his whole ego, I'm going to save the world and run towards the danger, right? Like, what is stopping the alien advance? Are the tanks actually affected? Are we just throwing everything we have at them and they're just like, okay, our resources are being built up from just trying to like defer all this attack.
You wanted that like the B movie, sort of like the army versus the aliens sort of imagery. Yeah. I'm sure is a big thing that he wanted to instill in all of it. But there was they made it clear, I guess, the communication between countries, it was really just boots on the ground, like what was going on in Tom Cruise's world, and the way that divvied out information was just through his eyes. And so it's almost taking advantage of the audience a little bit that way, where it's just like, oh, you're just going to see them fighting in the background and a lot of background stuff, but that's never going to be fully explained because Tom Cruise is too busy taking care of, just surviving and living. Right. And none of that stuff really needs to be explained. And it almost just comes across as just experiencing a really fucked up event and then just having to be like, fuck, man, okay, I guess that happened, and now it's over, and I didn't have anything to do with it ending, but I guess I just had to fucking deal with that. And it's it rings a little hollow, but it is, I don't know, it just reminds me again of like the 9/11 sort of mindset of just kind of like dealing with a very traumatic fucking event and having to bind together at the end and realizing, you have your family and everything there, and even seeing like all the American flags, like lining up to emphasize the wind as well. That's another, again, like it's these interesting, fun ways and practical ways to highlight effects. They almost had J.J. Abrams write this movie, but he was busy making Lost, I think was one little tidbit. I saw there's probably,
what that would have had, which in this movie, then if he would have done that, is what would the MacGuffin be? There has to be something. We need to get an object to a person in order to, be able to overtake the aliens or whatever.
There could be a good version of that. There could be a really really dumb version of that too.
Be a
so
lot
I
of
don't
better
know.
version.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, this movie,
you can't pull off this kind of narration of like, and that's how the cookie crumbles. It's like, I don't know.
That's the way it is. Yep.
Yeah. I'll do a little
sure.
IMDb trivia now when I'm thinking of it. When the aliens are investigating the junk in the basement, one of them plays with a bicycle wheel. This is a reference to the original book. The main character observes that with all the advanced technology the aliens possess, they do not use any wheels and wonders if the alien life form had skipped the invention of the wheel. One scene shows Ray running out of the house to find Robbie while dozens of people are right outside his house photographing the lightning storm. To film the scene, producers hired people on the street to come to the street at the time of shooting with the camera and film so they could get pictures of Tom Cruise for free. While filming nearby, Tom Cruise, along with 20-member entourage, including Spielberg, visited a Lexington, Virginia Dairy Queen. Cruise saw a jar on the counter with a photo of Ashley Flint and her story. Flint had been in a go-kart accident a few months earlier, leaving her family with a mountain of hospital bills. Cruise put $5,000 cash into the jar. He just had $5,000 cash on him. I'll just everything change in my wallet. Oh, just $5,000. What a guy.
Yeah, 5,000.
During the filming of the underwater scenes, director Spielberg played a prank on Tom Cruise and Dakota Fanning by playing the dramatic music from Jaws through the massive underwater speakers on the soundstage. That's fun. What a fun thing. Playing pranks. God, what a movie that is. To remind everybody, it is a 75% by the critics, a 42% by the audience. I'm going to go through some reviews. You guys want to take a break or anything? Are we good to go?
I'm okay.
I'm good. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So we'll go through some positive reviews from the critics. Kenneth Turan from LA Times gave it a 100. They say, working in the spirit of his predecessors, but with the kind of uncanny special effects they could barely dream of, Spielberg has come up with an impressive production that is disturbing in the way only provocative science fiction can be. From Hollywood Reporter, Kirk Honeycutt gave it an 80. Might be too realistic for its own good. The film takes perhaps a little too much glee in its abilities to manufacture mayhem. That being said, the ride is extraordinary. Let's do the New York Times, a 70. Dana Stevens. Acting is not really the point of this movie, which seems to arise above all from Mr. Spielberg's desire to reaffirm that he is, along with everything else, a master of pure action filmmaking. And
well, I'm glad they admit that the acting's not strong in this movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's check out some audience opinions from the negative side of 42% from them.
This is going to be good.
Let's see. From A. Kelly, a 1-star out of 5, titled Just No. Tom Cruise does his usual great job, but the script is awful, and the ending is such an insult to our intelligence that it reads like we've been flipped the bird. Watch Edge of Tomorrow if you want to see Tom in a movie with a solid script. Other reviewers have discussed all the irritants in this movie, including the kids. I haven't seen anyone specifically mention the ending. This will constitute a spoiler, if you care. The last scene is of the most ridiculous family reunion. Everybody else on the planet is either dead or struggling to survive, covered with filth, their homes destroyed. But hey, look, the townhouse door opens and there's the whole family, all dressed nicely, including Grandma in her prim little outfit and the teenage boy who could not have survived.
No, he was not dressed nicely. He was
he was still ripped up, even more so. All of them looking like they haven't been through anything more strenuous than card games around the table. Made me wonder if this was supposed to represent that none of them survived and that was the afterlife. That's the only way it can be rationalized, but that's too subtle an explanation when everything else took place was ham-handed nonsense. I guess if you just want to watch Tom Cruise run through hollering, then knock yourself out. There are better movies for that. Really, as I write this, my advice is that you save yourself. I feel like my brain is a little damaged by this movie.
Ooh. Brain damage.
Yeah, brain damage. From Bill, for 1 star, titled Tom Cruise in the most unlikable role in his or anybody else's career. The most unlikable role ever. I
kind of side with that a little bit. I sympathize. I get it.
Not like a someone who's playing a serial killer or something, it's more unlikable.
You're right. Yes, I get in comparison. No, he's so like, I don't know. He toned down. I don't know. He just.
Oh, he's a stinker. Bill says, I actually moved the film to the end after watching just 30 minutes. Why anybody would make a divorced man show such a little caring for his kids as the hero of the film is beyond me. So far, special effects are interesting, but I'll likely turn it off before it ends because I'm already hoping the hero will die soon.
Well, and you're already at the end of the movie because you skipped it, right? Isn't that what he said at the beginning? He watched 30 minutes and then went right to the end. I mean, you might as well finish it at that point. The movie's only 35 minutes long. I mean, just do it.
I'm trying to watch it in reverse and see if it's any better. Nope. I'll report back.
None of the characters are making any sense or speaking English.
But the world's a better place at the end. That's nice.
That's nice, yeah.
From Leon M. Chandras, 1 star out of 5, titled Nothing Like the Book. First off, this movie has absolutely nothing in common with the book with the exception of the alien invasion. So if you're looking for a good film adaptation of a novel, this is not the film for you. Second, I would argue that this film, although dark, is far happier than the novel because most of the major characters live and some aren't affected at all. As for the film itself, it's terrible. As a film, it doesn't make much sense. The acting is atrocious and some of the scenes are pretty gruesome. Also, each of the characters are given names in the film, which wasn't the case in the book. Oh, this guy did not want any names in this movie.
Names? Oh, God.
About the case the DVD came in was your typical case. The colors were sharp and vibrant, but there was a small chip in the corner, so it either wasn't shipped well or made well. Hard to tell which. Ooh, he's just upset about everything.
He's going to production line issues, man.
A lot of people complaining about the Blu-ray quality and on old Amazon reviews. It's kind of funny. Let's see if there's maybe one
Blu-ray.
more.
You see how shitty the CGI is? Is that?
Yeah, it's kind of blurry. I like maybe that's it.
Yeah, it's not good. Doesn't look good.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much set. I would like to move on now to some opinions of our own. Blarj, you are welcome to kick us off if you want to go first.
Yeah. I think as we like kind of discussed it more, because I've seen this movie like a lot.
Me too.
Like I've seen this movie quite a bit. I was telling Brandon, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna rewatch it just because I could probably like shot for shot recite the movie.
I had this on DVD. I watched it a lot too.
I did rewatch it, and it had been a while since I had seen it, so it was kind of good to see it, and it got me a little bit excited. Like I was kind of at first very like that. The first 30 minutes, I was like kind of on board, but as you get through the movie, you start just finding a lot of these like plot holes, which kind of then takes its toll on the acting, right? Because I'm sure some of the actors may have even like had trouble connecting with some characters.
They're like, why am I doing this? Where am I?
Yeah.
Who am I?
Yeah. Right. Which may have translated into the audience's like unease, especially when it comes to like Robbie, probably, because I did think maybe the audience was not a fan of him as much.
Us included, because he's
exactly.
The only positive side, or like the only happy moment with him is at the very end. Every other moment is like he's pissed and antagonistic towards.
I did enjoy that moment that he has with Dakota Fanning where he's helping her get to her safe space. I thought that was a good character moment, but those are so few and far between.
Yeah, you see glimpses. So I think I did kind of mention this already, that it's more so about letting Steven Spielberg like get through his paces, and there was a lot of filler stuff that was just getting to really good shot and really good like cinema. Right. But not good script and not good like story and acting. So like, visually, I really do like the movie, but when it comes down to it, in like terms of like actually liking a movie, I think I'm more like with the audience. So I'd probably give this one probably a little bit better of a score, but I'd say I'm like more middle of the road at like a 53, like a 53%. Like I do really enjoy Spielberg.
Yeah, dude.
I'm a big Spielberg fan, and anything he kind of touches, I'm like, hey, this was movie quality stuff. But yeah, they can't all be like bangers when it comes to script and that can only take you so far, good cinema. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a good enough film, but yeah, a lot of holes in there that kind of let you just fall off. So I think a 53 is a
I agree.
solid
That is
score.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfectly respectable score
Mm-hmm.
for this movie. Brandon, do you want to go next?
Sure. Yeah. Something that resonated with me, Mike, and what you were just saying is that Steven Spielberg going through the paces, and I think this is an example of such laziness, because with in comparison to a movie that he done,
Right.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind, there was so much attention paid to. And it's also part of his style, just by and large, is like Steven Spielberg likes to fill his movies with these like random characters, that color the film in such a wonderful collage of society. Having all of it's like a stereotype at this point of these characters that will pop up in his movies that maybe have only like a line or two in there, but they're just very unique and provide something to either the mood or to the plot. And it just blows me away that this movie has zero to do with another thing that resonated with me that you said earlier about the like what do you think the mission was for the tanks going in? Like, what was the conversation there? Because the way it was being presented in the movie is that they're just like, well, we got this shit that blows shit up, so we gotta go figure it out. It's like, that's not how the military works. They're not just gonna be like, let's go blow stuff up first and then figure out if it works. Like, that's not how this shit works at all. That's not. And it just it was crazy to me how this movie doesn't have any like what's going on with the military, or like what's going on with the government, or any interior into the greater like collective trying to work through this obviously global issue. It just comes off to me as being lazy, because it is a far simpler way to shoot, like from a just logistic standpoint, to just say, no, we're going to just focus on Tom Cruise. We're never going to go outside of Tom Cruise. We're just going to stick with him, and you can pitch it as being kind of interesting, like, so like through somebody's eyes, so on the ground, perspective, right? And never really shying away from that and getting too zooming out too much and getting lost in the sauce, or getting too burdened by how inner workings of geopolitical stuff would happen. But yeah, I think the movie suffers from it, because it's just incredibly difficult for me not to be like, well, you made a movie that is near perfect. And I'm not saying that every outing has to be perfect, but there's just so much of this movie that seems so lazy to me, even though that there are like really cool set pieces. It's just, there's a lot to it though that just comes off as like he's not really that interested in what he's trying to say. And it's just, let's let Tom Cruise do whatever he wants to do, and it's going to make money, and that's all that it kind of needs to be. Sure, it's not. Yeah, at times things don't need to be totally saddled up with or burdened with having effectively communicating interesting point of view. Sometimes movies can just be fun, but there's also a lot of stuff in this movie that isn't that fun. Like it's crazy how much of a halt everything comes to in the basement with Tim Robbins, where a lot of my notes was like, wow, this movie's like cranking along, and I'm really enjoying the fact that this movie is unencumbered to a degree. It's not cutting to like what's happening at the Pentagon, or some shit like that, which could be cool and interesting and keep the movie cranking along. So I don't want to just say that, going outside of Tom Cruise's again, out of his purview would slow the movie down, but it's just so crazy how this movie has this pace and then it just screeches to a halt and gets to a point where it's really uninteresting, because you don't really know these characters, and the movie's not even spending time to provide you with it. Like, I don't know why Dakota Fanning would have. Do you guys get a sense of like why she would have picked? I had to look up this track that she was singing to herself. Hushabye Mountain, like what it
Oh yeah, no clue.
like where does that come from? Like it was just
I thought it was like a reference to the book or something. I have no clue where that comes from.
I know, but so weird because it's like even in a moment where it should be so like let's get into what these characters stand for, who they are, what are their past and all that. It like it's just a bunch of bullshit jargon about like they're up there, we're down here, let's go get them. And it's just a lot of that. And then it goes right into, you know, the kind of horror element of the snake. A
Little
light
Deuce
thing
Scoop was kind of fun.
Yeah, I thought that was fun. Yeah, Little Deuce Scoop. Yep. I thought the he would, right?
Unexpected.
God, he's
like,
just so gaga
like
for cars. Yeah, like it's just every fiber of his being has to be somehow related to cars. Yeah, Little Deuce Scoop. Yeah, so I mean, this movie really sucks for me at the latter half. But I will give it credit that the beginning half of it, with the sound design for the lightning, the tension that all the unsettling, you know, stuff with before the tripod like is actually shown on screen, I thought was really, really good.
It hooks you. Yeah, it hooks you.
It hooks you. Pretty amazing stuff. So there was a part of me that wanted to go pretty low on this because I just really, really didn't like the back half of this movie. But I mean, in talking to you guys, and this happens more often than not, I would say, is like after talking to you guys about it, you know, I come around a little bit on it, just acknowledging its successes a little bit more and building those up. So I'm not going to give it like a super crazy low score, which I kind of was feeling going into this because there were parts of this movie that I did like, but I'm going to go like about a 40. I want to say 46, but there's a part of me that wants to say 42. And I think I'm going to go with the lower, honestly. I'm going to go with 42%.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this story is something that was important to him, and it was something that, yeah, it meant a lot to him to do, and he wanted to do it in a certain way, and he was given every license to do whatever he wanted. I just have to say, I think the original like thing is such a fascinating thing, like War of the Worlds, like when Orson Welles did the radio thing of War of the Worlds, and the people thought it was real and started freaking the fuck out, and I just always thought that cool. Was and maybe I can take this time. And I want to ask you guys a question. Do you think that is possible today? Can you do a War of the Worlds type event in today's world in any sort of medium of communication, whether it be social media or something like, or on the internet? Can you manufacture an event that doesn't really happen?
You can. I think the leg of it, the amount of time
before on it
is very short. Mm-hmm. Like I think it still could be a fun and effective like marketing tool, because that's kind of, or like a way to entertain people is what you're getting at, right?
Sure. You know, I figured, like that's a good way of looking at it. I was almost thinking, of like when whoever put up those like monoliths all over the world and shit, and people were wondering what the deal was with those. Yeah, but that's like actually out there. I'm trying to think like you hear about something and assume it's really happening or something like that.
Absolutely. Which happens a lot recently. Like something that comes to mind is somebody used AI generating art to make it look like Home Goods was selling satanic statues in it.
There you go. Yeah.
Which is pretty funny.
That's pretty funny.
and people just, you know, because it looks so real, these statues inside of Home Goods, you know, immediately hopping online and being like, can you believe that Home Goods is selling Satan statues? Like, man, the woke mobs really got into them or whatever. And then people just prattle on into oblivion about
if anything, it's almost all over the place more than ever. And anyone else can do it for a short amount of time to just enrage people or just instill an idea that's they want other people to have. But I just always thought that was like, it's for Orson Welles to be able to do that and the effect that it did have. And I even looking at through the history of a little bit today, and like someone tried it somewhere in South America, and it had such an effect that there were riots and like 7 people died, and like one of the announcers who announced that like a couple of his family members died because people freaked out so much. And just the power that has and the effect that it can have on people, I thought was just very fascinating.
It is. I agree.
But to move on to my review, I think it was worth talking about this movie for something that I'd seen a lot and then haven't seen in a while, very much like you guys are expressing and revisiting at this time, the things that stuck out to me, were definitely the Tim Robbins thing, and then how it comes together at the end were the glaring things that I had thought I had misremembered and realized that's essentially how it goes. Is it's just is wrapped up with that narration, which is just so shortchanged to the audience and not effective at all. And if it didn't have those bookends, like, this movie would be incomplete, and that feels kind of icky, because it's like you should be able to tell the whole story without just removing this one little 30-second blurb of just like, oh, and then this is how it happened, okay, see you later, bye. Really affects your mood walking out of the movie. I can understand a little bit more from the audience side, like, we're trying to figure out the different points of it all. Disaster movies in general, not really my thing, not really my bag, baby. So that's definitely gonna lose some points from even from a subjective side of things. Like, it's just not something that I'm looking to watch, and I haven't rewatched the movie in a while because of that. The beginning, I love the lead up to it. Even with Jurassic Park and stuff, all of the build up to Jurassic Park and everything, getting to the dinosaurs or getting to when it actually reveals and everything is a Spielberg trick that is always very sometimes more effective than others. But I think that he is a master of tension in this movie. It still entertains me in a lot of ways when a type of this disaster porn movie like this movie wouldn't really do in a lot of other ways. But it is just depressing and down, when they steal a car and then everyone's he steals it and then that guy gets shot and everything. They're sitting in the diner. I just remember thinking man, this is just rough. And then the train on fire goes by, and then the thing on the ferry, and then the boat gets taken over, and they're just looking out from the hillside, everybody just can mess up. It's it's effective in what it's trying to do, but it's also a downer of a movie. You feel kind of down. And then the moment when you feel I don't know, there's some sort of triumph isn't really earned. So on the surface, I think it effectively does what a director in a lot of ways should do, but the substance of the screenplay and where Spielberg's mind was at that time, I think affected this in a way that too just doesn't hold up as well as some of his other movies, even namely being Minority Report, which came out at a similar time, which is is kind of sci-fi. He's and then AI, I guess, was kind of another sci-fi movie around this time, and it's just not something that I would revisit again anytime soon. I'm feeling very lukewarm on it. But I'll go 56. I'll do 56.
Okay.
It's still pretty meh, but I commend the build up and the action and the ability to still remain entertaining and to ride the line between tonal shifts, and some of the humor I think is pretty well done. Which is, I think, can be tough and cringy to do sometimes, is instilling that humor, as weird and dysfunctional as it is with the family. Overall, I don't know. Tom Cruise is a blue collar guy, whatever, but I think he's just electric on screen. I don't know, whatever about the guy. He's weird dude, but he's electric on screen, and Dakota Fanning had a good performance. Eowyn.
Yeah, dude.
And then I just want to play a quick game of Magnetized if you guys want to jump into a quick game. I think these are a couple movies that we have not I've not thrown out to you yet, so let's get into a little game. If you guys haven't played or heard, you out there haven't heard of this game before, I'm going to give these guys movies that have the exact same rating from audiences and critics on Rotten Tomatoes, as opposed to Polarized. They're Magnetized. They're the same rating. They have to figure out what the score is for these movies that I'm going to give them. So the first one will go to our guest. We will start with another Spielberg picture, Jurassic Park. Same score from audiences and critics.
You're picking 1%.
So pick a number and then whoever's closest.
It's either a really good score or a really bad score, right?
It's up to you. It's just going to be the same from audience and critics. So whatever you think.
Okay.
What do you think they both agreed upon score is for Jurassic Park?
So Jurassic Park is going to be a 93%. We're going to go 93%.
93. Okay.
I'm going to go 98.
98. And I'm not doing Price is Right rules. So it is a 91. Mike, you freaked me out because I'm like, you said 91.
You got to go with your gut. Why don't you go with your gut?
But it was a 91. So you take the first point here. Moving on to round 2. We're going to go with a movie called Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. Is that how it's titled? Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, fuck.
A more recent movie to you.
And then I go. Yeah.
It was Knives Out and then Glass Onion, correct? Knives Out and then Glass Onion.
It's the second one. That's just Glass Onion.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Knives Out or Glass Onion, Knives Out mystery.
I'm going first, or Bardini is?
Bardini.
I am.
Oh, my bad.
The Rizzler.
The Rizzler.
Condolina Riz. 81.
81.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I was going to go way lower, but then you said 81. I'm going to go with 74.
74. It is a 92% for
really
higher than Jurassic Park. Higher than Jurassic Park.
What kind of world do we live in?
One up.
People love the drama. They love the drama.
They love it.
Okay.
They love it.
All right.
They love it.
They love a mystery.
It's more Rotten Tomato scores maybe at this time too, but still people.
I thought for sure
it.
the first one was better, but okay.
Yeah, I like the first one more than the second.
Same.
Well, let's move on to our final round. This is for all the marbles. I have this jar of marbles that you guys, one of you will be taking home. It is a very new movie. I hope you have at least heard of it. It's Ari Aster's newest film. I have not seen, but let's see if we can guess it.
It's Magnetized.
Beau is Afraid.
Beau is Afraid. Okay. Wow.
Beau is Afraid to blarj.
Okay.
Are you aware of this movie?
Yeah, I forget. I'm blanking on the actor's name. Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix. Thank you.
Ari Aster is the guy.
He's doing everything right now. Napoleon. Yeah. He's doing. Okay. Who's the director of this movie?
Ari Aster.
Ari Aster. Okay.
Hereditary, right?
Mm-hmm. Midsummer.
Yeah. This is why this name does not ring a bell, because I have purposely erased it from memory.
Beau is Afraid.
Okay.
I'm sure you'll love it.
I'm literally trembling as I'm thinking.
You got this.
Beau is Afraid. I'm gonna say
it's a shot in the dark for both of you.
84%.
84. Okay.
I'm gonna go 72.
72. It is a 70. So it will go to Bartleby.
Gets the marbles.
Gets all the marbles. Here you go.
I've been looking for some marbles.
You lost them.
Lost mine.
Yes. Seize the day.
Seize it.
I appreciate you guys joining me for yet another journey into the polarized verse, where we talk about polarizing movies, where we will be doing it again next time. We're talking about a sequel.
Thank you, Mikey.
Thank you, Blargy. Thank you. Thank you, Blargy. Kisses. Give your kisses to Blargy. We appreciate you, man. Anytime we go and blast off into space again or underground, we'll make sure we give you a call.
For underground.
Let's do it.
Hell yeah. For next time, it will be Bad Boys 2 from 2003. It is a 23% from critics. It is a 78% from audience, favored heavily by the audience. I'll read the movie info here on Rotten Tomatoes. The drug ecstasy is flowing into Miami, and the police want it stopped. Police detective Marcus Burnett, Martin Lawrence, and his partner, Mike Lowry, Will Smith, are just the men to do it. They track the drugs to a Cuban smuggler, Johnny Tapia. who is also involved in a bloody war with Russian and Haitian mobsters. If that isn't bad enough, there's tension between the two cops because Lowry is romantically involved with Burnett's sister.
Ooh, yeah.
Gabrielle Union. Join us, please, for another journey into the Michael Bayverse. I've been James, the forever guest. This has been...
I'm Brandini the Rizzler.
Also, check us out on ProdPod, our other podcasts about producers. We just talked about the Max Martin, Swedish producer who's created many pop hits, and we've done quite a few, or we've done, I don't know, like five episodes so far, pretty new. We just talk about music producers and their history and their effects on us and pop culture. Jimmy Iovine next. Reach out to us on whatever X. Fuck, man.
Fucking who knows, man.
Who fucking knows, man. PolarizedPod. PolarizedThePod@gmail.com if you want to send us a line. And twitch.tv/PolarizedPod. We stream live if you catch us there. And there's a YouTube channel, Polarized Pod, that throwing some stuff on there if you prefer to listen that way. We appreciate you all so much, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Up goes the weasel, bitch.